name is Dirk Rice, live in Philo in Champaign County, East Central Illinois. I'm actually standing on the spot where the house that my grandfather was born in used to be. We live in the house we built just in front of it, 1994. Family's been here since 1881, and we farmed it almost continuously. There was a period where my grandfather ran a bank, but other than that, the family's lived here and operated it continuously for almost all those years. We grow corn, beans, and a little bit of wheat. And this time of year, we're very close to wheat harvest and market it. At the moment, everything's local. My corn either goes to Frito-Lay, I have some food grade corn, or goes to the local cooperative, Premier Cooperative, and then some goes to ADM. Currently, so that's essentially what I'm growing. Grains in this part of the world largely are exported. We don't have a really prominent livestock sector, but we have really good rail connections. A little bit about precision farming and how we get our crop in the ground is the amount of it. Gonna focus on corn today. Gonna start a little bit with the equipment. If you look down here, this is a row unit on my planter. I use John Deere planters, and the company I use is called Precision Technologies. There's several companies that sell similar equipment. Start here, the seed tube. The main thing it's doing for you, it measures the seed as it comes down the tube into the ground, so it gives you your population, and it also will measure how well the seeds are spaced apart, and here in a little bit we'll show you why that is important. This would just be the seed unit. We change components in those, whether we're doing corn or beans. I currently have 2 planters, one for corn or beans, and so I'm not having to do that anymore. This is my first year with that. This is one of my planting tractors. Happens to be the one I use for beans, so I'm going to focus on corn planting for this presentation, but they're set up the same. If you notice, there's a yellow globe on top. That is the receiver that brings in the signal I use for guidance. There was a tower that is a few miles away from here that this draws off of, and I'm going to show you how this keeps me planting very precise on the same line year after year. This is essentially what monitors my planter and everything that is happening with it. We have a shot of when I was planting corn that will show better what's going on. If you see in the top left corner where it says population, that's just the population I'm putting down per acre. Corn I do in 30-inch rows, which amounts to about 12 centimeters. I'm putting on essentially 35,000 seeds per acre is my goal, where I apply just a flat rate. Some fields I vary it by different parts of the field. So 35,000, that's about 14,000 plants per hectare. There's a box there that says singulation. That is just simply how well the planter is doing at spacing out the seed. And I'll show you in a little bit why that is important, but it's to get maximum productivity out of your corn, having it spaced as evenly as possible is important. The bottom left-hand corner, you'll see downforce. Every row unit has its own mechanical part that is a combination of hydraulic and electric that, as you go through the field, will try to keep a constant downforce. So if I get an area that is maybe more compacted, it'll apply more downforce. You get in an area that's less compacted, it will lighten itself up, and it will do this automatically as you're going through the field. And so ideally that is keeping your seed depth the same everywhere in the field. This is important because your seed depth affects your emergence. You want all these plants to emerge ideally on the same day, but it's important to have them all within a 3-day window. If you have plants that are emerging much later than 3 days, they're far enough behind that they never really catch up, and they're just not near as productive. You notice we keep adding more screens as we get more technology. And this has just gotten interesting because, as you can see, it's to the point it's a little difficult to see out of this side of the tractor. At night it can be an issue because you have so much light coming in you from this side that you can't necessarily see very well. But I can still plan at night because I'm using guidance that will steer the tractor for me. So that's not near the problem that it would have been when we were doing this strictly by sight. Here's a field that I planted, that I varied the corn population based on the past productivity of that part of the field. If you look around the outside, you will see that it's the same color. There I just planted a straight population. As you get in here where the color changes, where it is green and yellow, the population is higher. Those have traditionally been the highest, most productive parts of the field. Where you see the darkest spots, those have been the least productive. Those are areas where we've had a lot of issue with ponding, drainage, and so they haven't been near as productive. So what I'm doing is putting more seed in the more productive areas, backing off the seed a little bit where it's less productive. Overall, I put out about the same amount of seed while I'm doing this. Another thing I can look at as I'm going through the field, this would be a downforce map, and this just tells me how much downforce I'm using to get the seed where I want it to be. In this field, we did a pretty good job. As you start to do what I call having to do excess down pressure, you see more orange and red. Actually, this much green, I probably should have been using a little more than what I was, but the field conditions were just tremendous, and so it was planting very easily. The third thing you probably watch the most, and this is just the hybrid I plant. I started with one hybrid, did most of the field with another. I'll use some of this same equipment in my combine when I harvest in the fall. And so when you're in the field, it'll know, depending on where you're in the field, exactly what hybrid it's harvesting at that time. Keeps track of everything. At the end of when I'm done with the field, at the end of the year, I can go back and look, see which hybrids were the most productive. And you can also, with this harvest, you can also see which parts of the field are more productive. So when you have problems, particularly drainage problems, something you can maybe fix, you're able to identify that. Two things this is how it ties together, the planting and the harvest part. The goal is at harvest to have all the information you can get to tell you, why did this part of the field do better? How much of it was the hybrid? How much of it might have been issues you have in the field itself? And so you kind of tie that together and use that to do a better job next year.